Salam and welcome. Thank you for joining me, part number 85 in the Ansari series, where we're looking at the moral and spiritual transformation in Islam, the teachings of Dr. Fazl Rahman Ansari on his lecture tour, beautifully compiled by Dr. Abdul Qadir Chogli. And you can get copies of this book from the Ahsan Academy of Research in Benoni, South Africa, or from Shelfcraft from Southern Ridge in Pretoria, which is the capital of South Africa, and that is in the Gauteng province of this beautiful land of South Africa. And we as South Africans, we say, what we say, what is our national anthem? We say, bright place, rugby, sunny skies, and in the old days we used to say Chevrolet. In the 70s I heard the song on the radio. Bright place, rugby, sunny skies, and Chevrolets. But today what we say? Today we change the song. Today we say, bright place, rugby, sunny skies, and BMW. Right, okay. So side by side with teaching the philosophy of transforming the whole life into one of worship, Islam also outlines the ceremonial acts of worship, because these ceremonial acts of worship, the five pillars, they play a vital role in building up the human personality. So even though we say that every act becomes an act of ibadah, but within that act of ibadah, there are very important acts of ibadah, which is like the salah, the zakat, and all of that. So let's look at that. So the three main institutions are the obligatory institutional prayers, which is the salah, the 5 times namaz, fasting in the month of Ramadan, which is the Sawm, and the pilgrimage to Hajj. So zakat is also included among the ibadah or devotional acts because it entails sacrifice of money at regular periods. It is, however, distinguished from your prayers, fasting and pilgrimage, right? So now let's look at salah. So Dr. Ansari now tells us in chapter number, we look in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, verse number 103, verily the prayer is prescribed to believers at definite times. Islam has been built up on 5 pillars, 1 of faith and 4 of action. The prayer forms the most important pillar of action. The question arises, what is the need of prayer? It is an age-old conviction here as to what is the need of prayer. It is an age-old conviction of humanity that the human personality is constituted of 3 factors: body, mind, and soul. It is also an established fact that the nature of the human personality has to be developed and it's got to be evolved over time. The law of evolution has been universally acclaimed as the true principle underlying the existence of all organisms. All of us know that the human body is an evolutionary phenomenon. We are told in biology that the earliest form of every human baby that comes into this world is that of a life germ, which is just an infinitesimal speck and unnoticeable by the human eye. This speck evolves in its embryonic stages by acquiring more and more developed forms. It develops into a fully fledged human personality and comes into the world to play its role in the life of humanity. We also know that when a human being undergoes other changes, it develops human features and human limbs. Rather, its physique has to undergo a continuous process of development day in and day out for years and years, and then alone it requires the maturity of physique. Like, for example, the human brain, the frontal cortex, keeps on developing into your late teens, even up to the age of 25, it is still developing and growing. And now we know that the human brain is not static. The human brain continues to develop until the end of your life because of neuroplasticity, right? So similar to the physical evolution and the process of evolution, there is a process of evolution of human consciousness. There are 3 levels of consciousness. There is the instinct, there is reason, and there is intuition. And there's 5 forms of physical, theoretical, moral, aesthetic, and spiritual dimensions of consciousness. When a human baby comes into this world, its reason and intuition are dormant. It is too small to understand that. Even all the instincts are not active. In fact, the only instinctive ability present at the time of birth is connected with the sense of taste. The eyes of the baby open only a day or 2 after birth, or even in some cases, even immediately. But even then, the sense of sight is very simple and vague. For instance, the child does not seem to distinguish between different objects. In fact, studies have shown that when a baby is born, the baby can only see from here up to about a foot, 12 inches. The baby can't see more than 12 inches. The baby can only see up to here. So sometimes when the father is there at the end of the bed, the new fathers, they're very happy. They look at the baby and say, hey, my son, hey, my son. And the baby just, meanwhile, the baby can't see nothing. The baby can't see nothing. Everything is a blur for the baby. The baby has been created in such a way he can only see this much. You know why? Because when the baby is breastfeeding, The baby can only see the face of the mother. Subhanallah, look how beautiful that is. So when the baby is breastfeeding, the baby can only see the face of the mother beautifully and clearly. Only this amount of distance, the distance about the length of this book. So the baby can only see this distance. Anything the father is waving there, the baby is ignoring that. But the father is getting happy. Hey, look at my baby, he's drinking the milk. But subhanAllah, that is what when new parents, we all are new parents and we all are new grandparents, alhamdulillah, right? So it must be clear at this stage that it is not only the human body which evolves from a live germ into a fully fledged, but also the human consciousness also develops. There is a whole science of dietetics and nutrition as well. We have already pointed out that the food for the human body is physical and its nature, while the food for the mind is mental. So the mind needs also food as well. The food for the soul should be spiritual. We have been told in Islam that the food for the soul is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is zikr. And we know that zikr is also the polish of the heart. The first prerequisite in connection with the physical food we eat is preparation and care. So mental food also needs preparation and care. Likewise, spiritual food must also be prescribed with preparation and care. Islam prescribes it in the form of pre-prayer, and preparation for worship means you make your ablution, you make your wuzu, you make your niyat, which establish your niyat, and you remove the thoughts from everything and you concentrate only on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second prerequisite is that regarding our spiritual food, remembrance of Allah should be centered on the one and true Allah and not on man-made deities or idols or anything else. That is why in Islamic places of worship, in the mosque or anywhere else, you don't have pictures or statues or symbols like that. And many Christians, when they enter a mosque, they find it very surprising. They find it very calming, very peaceful. So I'm inviting you, please, if you're a Christian or a non-Muslim or an atheist or agnostic, please contact your local mosque and they will take you for a tour of the mosque. The first thing you will find, it is very, very peaceful. It is not like a church. The first thing you have to do, you have to take out your shoes. Then you got to wash yourself. They will show you how to do ablution. You just wash your hands, you wash your face, and then you walk around. Even if you don't have to do the ablution, you just want to have a tour, you will find immediately there's a sense of peace. Immediately you will find there's no statues. There's no pictures on the wall. There's no benches. There's no tables. People don't sit on tables and chairs in the mosque. They sit on the floor with humility. And when people sit, they sit with their heads bowed down with humility. And there's no jumping and singing in the mosque like how you find in some church worship. Some church worship, they're singing. We don't criticize them. I'm just explaining what some people do. There's singing, there's dancing, or there's shouting. But Muslims are gentle, humble. Even when a Muslim speaks at the minbar, a Muslim speaks with honor, with dignity. Muslims are not supposed to shout because, God in His mercy is not deaf. He can hear everything. And today with modern technology, you have loudspeakers, you don't have to scream. So those Muslims, unfortunately, and some of the new graduates want to raise the voice when they're speaking. Please let us be gentle and be calm. The Surah Luqman, where he teaches us that, the worst noise is the loud braying of the donkey. So we need to, when we are giving our speech or a sermon, or even if you are giving a public speech, don't seem that you have to be heard. Don't make it seem that you must scream and shout. If you start screaming, in some of the lectures, the people, they switch off. They say, what is this guy screaming about? Yes, sometimes you get upset about if you see some certain things going on in world affairs. So then you express your dissatisfaction. But to be able to be heard, rather, you must always plan your speech very properly. Make a list of what you want to say, because you must remember, if there's 1,000 people listening to you, then be precise. And that is why I prefer reading from the book and analyze it. You know why? Because a book is precise. Alhamdulillah, when I used to give my Jummah talks at the masjid, I used to take pen and paper. I used to make a lot of notes. I used to prepare my speech. I used to make a lot of notes because I don't want to waste people's time. It's easy for me just to go up to the member and just start talking. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. You can sit, I can talk for 3 hours, alhamdulillah. But I don't want to waste people's time. When I talk, I want to give people proper knowledge, precise knowledge. So that is why I use books. I go through these books. I say, if you are listening, I want to give you proper knowledge. And that is what is part of a prerequisite, that we need to prepare properly and we need to deliver wholesome knowledge. Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us, forgive us our errors and shortcomings. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. And we are still continuing with this concept of the ibadah, or the principle or the philosophy of worship and ibadah in Islam. And we're looking at salah. Take well and join me in the next session. We're discussing further this important concept of salah. Stay well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.